Card. Welcome, everyone. We are super excited to have the wonderful and amazing Linda Rosenson. I'm very grateful, but I know all of us who are part of this teacher community that, it's always nice to hear what I call the legends, because you are to me one of the legends of, how you teach, what you teach, all the little intricacies of teaching, and looking forward to getting some of this some of this wisdom from you. Um, so I did make some questions here. I'm just going to actually bring them up. But Linda, if you could, can you tell us a little bit how you got into Mahjong and just a little bit about yourself and what you're up to now?
Absolutely. So, hi everybody. It is such an honor to be here. I have to tell you, Jamie and Elva are such stars to me, and what they're doing is really making some wonderful magic. Uh, I learned about, I'm going to say about 13 years ago, and I learned poorly. I had a kind of like a trial by, fire type of learning. And I think that might be one of the reasons that I am actually a teacher is I had to learn the game and then relearn the game. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with evolving as far as that goes. Uh, and so I have been teaching probably about 7 years, and that all came in right before COVID, and it was really great fun. And then COVID more or less shut a lot of things down for a lot of people, but creatively, we all kind of had to get through a couple years that were a little dicey, and then I started creating social content, mostly on Mahjong. That's it. But also, I have a South Jersey Mahjong group with about 950 people. And that would include the haikus, there's memes, then came Wordle, which actually just came into the whole world around COVID. And then these Wheel of Fortunes, because I always like Wheel of Fortune. So I'm able to create puzzles that are themed on Mahjong, but appear to be a Wheel of Fortune game. Uh, I've taught probably the better part of maybe 300 people. I go on cruises and other types of travel with Crack Your Bags. And they are some hotshot, amazing dynamo ladies out of Florida, Susan and Jill. And they are travel agents and they're Mahjong players. And it is social play when you're on the cruise ship. It's whatever you would like it to be with some mini tournaments. It's very much wonderful fun because you get to meet other like-minded people. You have an opportunity to interact with newer players, seasoned players, and just people who thoroughly enjoy the game as much as I do. And I have had the benefit of meeting some of what I would call the legends. And the legends are Jan Egri, Johnny Levine, Gladys Grad, Michelle Frizzell, uh, Fern Bernstein. There are people who have taken real blood, sweat, and tears to uh, formalize and create uh, learning and education for the masses and really make it digestible and fun. And it's ever evolving. So if you are currently a teacher, you're aspiring to be a teacher, you have uh, been a teacher of long standing, I say good for you because you are bringing something to others that is a gift. And uh, it is the gift truly that will keep on giving. So that I come to you today with a lot of gratitude for what this game is and for Elva and Jamie and for all of you.
Yay. Well,
Yay.
we are grateful that you are here. All right, so I have some questions, and we're going to start with the number one. What do you feel that makes someone considered a very good teacher? What do you, what can you share with us on what you feel that makes someone a good teacher?
Okay. So some of the hallmarks. One, you're a lifelong learner yourself. You're a person who is curious. You want to learn and then learn more. So you have that excitement and it shows. It will show, it will come through. You are organized in your executive thinking. Uh, you are patient because human beings, by their very nature, are going to come to the table with a multitude of nuance, personality wise, expectation wise, how they learn. Are they visual learners? Are they hands on learners? Are they learners who are quick or learners who may need more reinforcement? So it's kind of reading your audience, playing to kind of the middle and understanding on the bell curve on either side how to massage the ones on the lower end and be amenable to questions and reinforcement and asking people how how do you learn, what type of learner are you. Sometimes the questions need to be asked of the students. um, and I think in Mahjong, I've gotten into the groove that I tell everybody the first lesson is a toughie. Don't let it discourage you. There's so much information being thrown out about something you may have zero knowledge, and they're walking out understanding 152 tiles and the combinations of those tiles and so much pageantry, as I call it. There's all these little steps involved. And I have had people say, I feel somewhat overwhelmed. And I say, just take a breath, wait for the aha moments in the next lesson. Um, and lesson two, I think, 102 is where things start to gel. 101 is a lot. It's a lot, and again, it's reinforcing and reinforcing. Um, and there's 2 points that I would, when we get back to 101, there's 2 important points I want to get back to when we talk about like the foundational knowledge.
Okay. So another question for you. Okay. And we do, as teachers, come across, like you said, different personalities, different kinds of learners. But
Yes.
how do you correct those who might cross the line in like etiquette and, how to play nicely?
Yes.
How do you handle
Um,
that?
Yep. So I think, again, different, some people are real alphas and some people are pretty laid back. And a lot of people will bring that big personality to the table. And we do talk about the golden rule and absolutely in a game where people are there to celebrate one another and each other in a table of four, what the expectations are that you would not want to say something to anybody that you would not want to hear it coming your way. We never want anyone to be made to feel small or less than adequate or a slow learner or um, anything along those lines, because that could be the same person at the next lesson that zooms past everybody else because it all catches up. Respectful communication, um, and asking people to show grace, be patient with themselves and others. Reinforce that as a baseline. There is an expectation in a social setting for social standards to be upheld.
Okay, yes. And I'm sure a lot of us here and whoever, if you're even watching the replay, we do run into sometimes I call them like someone who might be a little snappy, right? And or if there's a disagreement of a rule, and while they're probably both incorrect, um, those situations arise. And so it sounds to me like you have like you're very methodical and you don't like take it in or personal, right? As a teacher, you seem to be very like, this is that. But when you have that situation, when you have two, maybe even two people that are playing that are learning, and one is kind of being snappy, like how do
Hmm.
you how do you nip that in the bud? How do you do it? I'm just curious.
Um, I may say that something along the lines of I can understand how when you're learning that other people may not be learning at your pace and that may not be comfortable for you. Having said that, it's important to be patient, and there may well be conditions where you could be the person who is not picking up on things as quickly as others. Um, and it never is going to make someone look good to be mean spirited. Uh, I will take that one to the next level, which is there are a few mahjong players out there, maybe more than a few, and they are top tier players. They're incredibly good players. Their personalities are tough. They've got edge, and that has worked against them because you can be the best player in the world, but if you are not viewed as an easy person to engage with, or people are steering away from you, or I'd rather not go to that table because of that person. Uh, it you have taken the beauty of knowing a game and being able to play it well, and it's you've defeated the whole purpose by behaving in a way that has polarized people. Uh, and I will sometimes use that as an example. You don't want to polarize anybody in a social setting. As frustrating as it may be, come to me afterward, play through it, talk to me afterward, but don't say or anything that could be very hurtful to somebody who's really trying very hard and is just not learning at the same pace as you, or they learn differently than you. Um, you know, I get that there's no crying. Oh, I even have a bag that says there's no crying in Mahjong, but honestly, I have seen people reduced to tears. Uh, nobody wants to, don't be the mean girl. Don't be the mean girl in life. It won't serve you well.
Right. Do you say
Um,
that to them? Do you actually take them aside and say, "Hey,
I have,
you have"?
and yeah, one woman yelled at another woman, and I said that isn't you're not that's not how we talk. We're not going to talk like that to one another. There are certain ground rules, uh, rules of engagement, rules of play. And part of the rules of play is to create an atmosphere that's nurturing and safe and supportive.
Right.
And that could, what could that lead to? It could lead to some toxicity. And you want to kind of nip that stuff in the bud. And that is something we talk about is what are the expectations of how we speak to one another? How do we engage with one another? And it needs to be in a respectful fashion, especially in a learning environment.
Yeah, this just kind of goes right into the next question that I had for you, which is like, how do you handle different style of learners? You always have the interrupters or what we call the negative Nellies, or even ones who are not even focused. I know I speaking for myself, but I would imagine many of us have run into those, and you might ask yourself, like, why are you here? You don't seem to really want to learn, or do you? Like, they don't seem to be focused. So, how do you handle having different style of learners?
I do lead with there are different ways to learn, and we're going to try different teaching techniques. Some of it is going to be verbal, a discussion. and some of it is going to be hands-on, and some of it is going to be see one, do one, and teach back. Teach back is a good one.
Explain what teach back means.
Teach back is I do one, you do one. I'm going to tell you how to uh, do the Charleston, and then you're going to tell me how to do the Charleston.
Okay.
I'm going to explain it to you, and then you're going to explain it to me. It may not be anything quite as complex. It may be just how do we start the game? How do we establish who is East? How do we break the wall? I am going to tell you, and then I'm going to sit down, and you're going to tell me. You're going to explain it back to me, and then we're going to just make sure that you understand what the assignment is, what the steps are. So when people have to verbalize it, even if it's not as I have said it, if it's the way they want to say it, but it's accurate, that's good because they've now to me they understand it. They're able to say in their own words what it is that those steps are, that step or steps are that they've been instructed to understand. So that's a teach back methodology. Um, so
So
that's where,
what do you do
oh,
when you
the interrupters, the
right? Oh, the
interrupters.
interrupt. Wait, I have a question.
And that's good because I'll say, hold that thought, hold that thought. I'm going to finish my thought, but I absolutely want to hear what you have to say. Everyone wants to feel valued and that their time is and their questions, have a place. When I start talking, I will say, I am going to talk about this for 5 minutes, this topic. Right. If you want to write down a question, you want to hold on to that thought in your head, then I will be ready to ask questions. I like questions. Questions mean that it's mulling around in their head and they need to maybe explain it what they have heard, and if it's accurate to what I've said, that's terrific. If they need clarity, that's good. I think one of the most amazing things about this game is when somebody asks about a rule and it's one of two answers. The answer is A, because, and that's just the answer. Why can't I use a joker and a pair? Well, because that's the rule. Now, if they ask a question about why do I have to pick and then exchange for a joker and then discard, I can give them a solid reason why, because they won't have enough tiles to account for on their rack. That I can give them a really I can tell you, because I can explain to you by a number count why you cannot do that action and why it would create, a non-viable hand. There's a real rationale behind that. But there are certainly going to be questions that the answer is because this game has so many little nitpicky little rules, and half of them the answer is because that's the rule. And the other half are really solid, totally solid. How about this one? If I live to be 1,000, I will never understand how the National Mahjong League, knowing that there are three suits and they are dots, cracks, and bams, that they would pick three colors, and two of the three colors are red and green. And how many poor souls have I taught, you taught, all of us taught? They're like, well, I get it. It's on the card and it's in red, so I would use cracks there. It's on the card and it's green. I guess I use BAMs there. And I'm like, no, my friend. Think of it as suit A, suit B, and suit C. You got three colors, one, two, or three colors. And why they didn't pick like purple and maybe like orange or something, yet they didn't. So be it. Uh, and that's fair. Some things will have rationale, some will not. But I do think people do want to be heard. They will have questions. I want people to believe in themselves. When people come in for the first lesson, that you build them up. You're going to walk out of here knowing how to identify 152 tiles. You are going to walk out of here and understand the basic constructs of this game. And that is a whole lot in a short amount of time. And they look at you, then there's your negative Nellies. Oh, I'll never do. I can, no, no, I'll never be able to identify. No, yeah, you will. Yeah, you will. How do you like that?
Yeah.
Um, so that I think is a good one.
Yeah. And it's nice when they do get it and they go, aha, right? It's my favorite thing.
Oh, the ahas are
Aha,
amazing.
oh, yeah, and then oh.
Oh,
Okay. Um, so one of the things as a teacher, especially during a 101, we are trained and we teach a Charleston. Um, and I, in a way, I remember when we first started, and it was like I felt like I just played four different hands because I'm going around and I'm,
yeah.
offering advice because there obviously no way that they can know like what tiles that they should get rid of. Sometimes you get a person who's new that might catch a little early, but for the most part, we're guiding them, truly picking what tiles they should be passing. So, do you ever, or do you run into when doing such a thing, that conflict that you're not like, if they didn't shuffle well and everybody has cracks and they all want to do the same hand, do you manipulate? Do you try to guide or gear them so that they are not competing or running into um, doing the same hand so that it doesn't end up in a wall game? That's I'm just curious if that happens.
50-50. Sometimes I will manipulate a little bit. Uh, I actually try not to uh, because it's more organic that way. And in real life, that can actually just happen. However, I think sometimes what you'll see is what appeared to be an evens hand, something that was going to kind of evolve into a 2 4 6 8. The threes and the fives come in, and it kind of morphs over into a consecutive runs hand during the Charleston. So what starts out as this may kind of move on over to that. Uh, I think to a larger degree, you're not going. I will rarely encourage a singles and pairs hand, unless there are maybe 10 tiles toward it, 10 out of 13, and it just seems like it's going to build just because of out of morbid curiosity. It's an amazing thing to see a singles and pairs hand evolve. On the flip side, with a quince hand, unless somebody has two jokers, we're not going to go in that direction. uh, I think we kind of just filter down through the categories, the 9 categories, and see where things are. And I do like to let it play out somewhat organically, to tell you the truth.
That's cool. Okay. That I just, yep, I like that answer. Thank you. Okay. What should you not teach on a 101 class? A first lesson. What would you not teach?
I wouldn't talk about pivoting at that point. I would have them focus on a hand and, you know, a category. Have them focus on a category, and then within that category, see which hand seems to make the most sense. And at best, get them between two different hands. Uh, I What else would I not teach? Um, Higher level strategy type stuff. I don't know it on the very first lesson go through that. I'd get into the blind passes. Uh, and just the mechanics of a blind pass. I think in 102 it'll become apparent if that when you do it, how you do it, and stopping the Charleston. Because
Do you,
that's a conversation.
right, do you teach like Joker bait or I call it fish
Absolutely, I teach joker bait,
on 101?
uh, baiting on at 102, not at 101. How to do a joker exchange? Yes.
Yeah.
Baiting and holding back pairs. Uh, no, I might encourage people to hold back on a flower, when they're thinking about passing a flower, discarding a flower early on. I might say hold back. That may or may not be something you need, or, just to see if other people, when they put up a joker, a flower exposure, that there might be a joker out there that you can grab.
Gotcha. Okay. So then that leads me to like, what do you teach in a strategy class?
Okay. Strategy class, I definitely talk about tile composition all the way through. And that's something I do want to touch on is that if you look at 152 tiles, which is what we're going to play with every time, is that between 1 through 9, dot, crack, bam, you're going to come up with 71% of the tiles, the inventory. Over 100, 108 tiles are going to be numbered suited tiles. So overwhelmingly, the inventory in this game are numbered suited tiles. The next one down is going to actually be winds. There's 16, then dragons, there's 12, flowers 8, and then jokers, which, are going to be used as jokers are used. So this is a game of predominantly numbered suited tiles. It doesn't mean that's what you're going to get when the tiles are divvied out. But be mindful when you look at patterns, and that is something that we do a deep dive into looking at repeating patterns on the card. If you have, pungs of twos, uh, and where else can you find a pung of twos? And another, where there's going to be a high prevalence of movement that you can make on this card if you have a pung of this and a pung of that, or a kong of this and a kong of that, versus how limiting some choices are. If you are in the winds and dragons section and you are in winds, you're like your heart is set on doing winds. I'm telling you, one wind exposure, and chances are there's only 3 or 4 hands on the whole card that hand can be. Uh, and it's the big reveal. And then you are subject to other people potentially just trying really hard to shut you down. And the challenges that go with certain hands. You do a quint exposure, very limiting. You now have, it's like the big reveal. Uh, Likewise, believe it or not, even with flowers. So you do a Kong of flowers. There may be like a dozen hands that have a Kong of flowers. Um, the other thing is so important to give consideration to when you learn a card, when you teach a card, when you use a card, understanding which hands, and I call it flexible versus not flexible. That means that when you look at that, what is printed on that card, and you look in the parentheses, are you being given more latitude to create a hand than what is actually written there? The first hand under, 2025, you can end in 2-2 or 5-5. That's just an example. This year, 1-3-5-7-9, that entire category has no flexibility. It is exactly as written. There is just no room to be creative. But that's like when you level up. When you level up, you can look at a card and quickly assess, because you are now getting more familiar with where you have flexibility and where you have to be, laser sharp. It has to be that hand and that hand only. Uh, the other thing is talking just about how restrictive a hand is, and I think that's more of an advanced thing. And when I talk about that, Jamie, I'm talking about if you have a value, undervalue, it's the red X. That means that you can improve your hand one of 3 ways. You're going to improve it by picking a tile from the wall, calling a tile from the table, and doing a joker exchange. You can improve your hand one of three ways. If you are playing a C, a concealed, or some people call it a closed hand, you can only really improve your hand one of two ways. And that's going to be taking a tile from the wall, doing a joker exchange. And I'm not talking about the last tile calling for Mahjong, because that's really any hand on the card. You can call the last tile for Mahjong. And the absolute most restrictive hands on this card are singles and pairs, because jokers do you no good. So the only way you're going to improve that hand is taking a tile from the wall and, of course, calling that last tile for Mahjong. So that's that. Uh, More advanced strategy is also watching the wall. There's 99 tiles on the wall, and you can kind of play the game down in thirds. In like the first third of the wall that gets, depleted, you should be like guns a-blazing. And depending on how your hand is, coming together, that second third, likewise. But that last third, if you're still like three tiles away, uh, you may want to consider just blocking someone else from winning if you feel you're just not going to get there for yourself, and talking about how do you block other people? How do you figure out what hand they're possibly playing and not throw a tile that can be useful to them? So those are all strategy type things.
Love it. Very cool. Okay, another question for you.
Yes.
This one is, and we're seeing there's a lot of new people that are coming into the Mahjong teacher arena. Some are new,
Yeah.
some have been playing a long, long time. But when you're a new teacher, what advice can you offer for someone who's just starting out, and not the business side of it, but the
Mhm.
teaching side of it? What are some advice information that you would give them?
Always find a mentor, and I mean mentor in the truest sense of that. Seek somebody out or people out who are seasoned professionals, uh, and see if you can work with them and observe them, and if they can observe you. Here, this is my shameless but not really shameless plug. Buy this. This is from the National Mahjong League. This is Mahjong Made Easy. This is the National Mahjong League rule book. It's maybe $20. You can get it from the National Mahjong League. If you are wondering what the rules are per them, what's on the card is a very like abridged and abbreviated version. But if you are looking for what is, prescribed by the National Mahjong League, that's the that. Uh, I'm never going to say don't jump on social media. I'm not really loving like AI as one of your resources. You may want to go on Mahjong That's It, or Mahjong Community, or Maj Life, and ask questions for clarity. The biggest challenge is, and I can speak to this because of when I learned, I didn't know I was learning improperly. When you're taught something, you're assuming you're learning the correct way, and you're learning the standard, right? Uh, you then come to find out, oh, how interesting. And in today's world, I guess the hut word I would use are blanks, Uh, if I were taught that blanks were part and parcel of this game, what, why wouldn't I think they are? And they are, and they can be. But if you're going to teach a National Mahjong League standard of play, which can just be used anywhere at any time, it still means you could walk into someone's home and they're going to say, we have this table rule or that table rule. And that's fine. So I think it's really learning I'm a purist at heart. And so that would be my advice, is truly finding other people out there. It's always good to latch on to someone smarter than you. I'm always looking for that person. And And some are going to be very forthcoming, and others maybe not so much. You'll find your people out there, and I am very grateful to share my knowledge. There's no secrets. It's we all want the next person to look good and be good and feel successful.
I agree with
So
you on that, 100%. Um, okay, one more question, and this one I we haven't spoken about, but not too long ago in our group, we had said, share a Tuesday tip. And what's one of your funny sayings or one of the sayings that you say that you love to say when you're teaching? And it was great. It was really funny. And some of them were just little ways for people to either remember something, whatever. But is there something that you say that always gives everyone a chuckle out loud? Like, do you have a saying that you love to do?
well, I bought the T-shirt from the Mahjong Maven, so they can own that one. It's the etiquette one. I have a T-shirt and I say it, and even if gentlemen are in the room, what do I care? Don't touch my rack.
Right.
And I have a T-shirt right. It's like right across my boobs. It says, "Don't touch my rack."
Yeah, that one
Um,
definitely gets a chuckle.
that tends to be a crowd pleaser.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Okay, that's great. Okay, so it's we have about 20 minutes left. I want to allow anybody who's here to give
I
them.
want to just jump in and does everybody understand why you don't want anyone touching your rack or why you should not be touching someone else's rack? Does everyone understand fundamentally the risk that you sustain by having someone else uh, touch the tiles on your rack?
Tell us, because
Oh, I know you're dying to
yeah,
know.
I want to hear your
Okay.
explanation.
So it was Jan Egri who said, Linda, she would never forget it. Somebody did a Joker exchange and they put a tile on her rack was the wrong tile, and it destroyed her hand, and now it was on the rack. Her Joker was gone, the natural was there, but it was the wrong. If it needed to be a 5 dot, it was a 4 dot, and it was just like watching the Titanic sink. So that is why you want to see the actual tile that is being exchanged, and it is the right tile, uh, and then that makes for the good Joker exchange. Yeah.
You know, that's one instance, but there also and just bringing up the when you mention how you want to do your best to teach by the National Mahjong League rules. And of
Yes.
course, when you don't know, you don't know. So, I always say give yourself grace. We're learning, we're figuring out. And one of the things that I do run into is people when they deal tiles, some people will actually take all four tiles and deal them out to each person. And then, of course, I've always learned to not do that. That you're not my mom, she would smack my hand if I would touch her tiles. That was just kind of like you didn't touch other people's tiles. So, but I want to say over the past few years, I have come across tables or players and people who've been taught to deal out tiles. And just curious your thoughts on that. And then I promise I'll open up the questionnaire for.
Okay. All you have to do is look on the back of the card, and it says to begin, all tiles are face down and mixed. East rolls the dice. Total number thrown designates where East breaks the wall. Each player picks 4 tiles for 3 rounds. East then picks the next first and third top tiles, and the other players 1 tile each. You need to look no farther than the back of your card, and that does then demonstrate that each player is responsible for ownership of their own tiles all the way through this game. P.S. Etiquette. It is considered etiquette that everybody look at their tiles all at the same time, like when we were in school and everybody turned their test over at the same time. Some people can't stand it and they want to like put those tiles up just as quick as they can. However, we do, from an accounting point of view, make sure you have the right number of tiles. So it's really a good idea to make sure you have your 13, 13, 13, 14 before you throw them up, just to make sure that everybody has gotten their proper allocation of tiles. Uh, yeah, and for the point that you use that word dealt, as opposed to, dealing, like in cards, you think of somebody dealing them out, being responsible for that. But in mahjong, we should be responsible for our own tiles. What is in and on our rack is really proprietary to us. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
Who has questions? I'm going to change the view here so I can see everybody. There we go. All right. Go ahead, Brooke. You can go first.
I do have a question, but I just want to add because I'm laughing at what you were just talking about. I have the opposite as you with the dealing with my mom because I learned 10 years ago and
Hmm.
I taught dealing. Like one person deals to everyone. That's how I was taught. That's how I always played until I started teaching and saw the back of the card, which I never really, honestly, I never really looked at it until like that detail until I started teaching. And now my mom argues with me that, when she starts dealing to everyone, I'm like, don't touch the tiles. Like, we're all going to take our own. And then I like, don't tell me, I've been playing, all that. I'm like, look, mom, read the card, right? And
Right.
so and what I had heard, which I don't know if it's true or not, but I like to tell this story. There's a superstition about touching other people's tiles and stealing their luck.
Oh,
That's
well,
where the whole background of it came from. Was it you, Elva? It was probably from I don't know, from one of the Zooms that we had. And so I love that story. So I always tell people, I'm like, disclaimer, I don't know 100% if it's true, but it seems, so now my daughter, when she plays, she like touches all the tiles first to steal everyone's luck. But that's how I tell them to remember that everybody takes their own tiles so that you're not stealing other
and
people.
Brooke, something noteworthy, and something like relative to your mom. The game has evolved. There has been some evolution over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And that evolution is good. And it's very possible when your mom learned and when she played socially, that was just the way it was done. And it's and I get that. And hopefully she can see both sides of this. It's all in what you're used to, and habit and comfortability. And often, it's a challenge. You talk about what could be a challenge. A challenge is when somebody is instructing, and there's somebody in the audience, and they say, I have been playing, and it's usually like like just jaw dropping a number of years. I've been playing 53 years, Linda Rosenson, and that's not how I was taught. And my answer is, you're probably right. You're right. That's probably not how you were taught. And that's probably not how you're comfortable playing. However, if you look at National Mahjong League rules as they are today, that is the correct protocol, methodology. And that doesn't mean this isn't about who's right. It's what's right. This is how it is laid out. And if you want your table rule, and your mom wants her table rule in her home to be that way, that's why there's table rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at how much sporting events have evolved through the years of different rules and things change and everything. So, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
I'm curious in strategy, if you start talking or really how you're explaining to people of what, like I'm talking advanced strategy,
Yeah.
watching tiles on the table and what's coming
Yes.
out and how not so much for discards, but for your, and not so much of like the pairs, but to help defensively of getting an idea of what other people are playing, managing all that with your hands and the timing of like what tips you give for that.
Um, Part of it is, and I will say, for the person who's their first year out, for them to keep a good inventory in their brain of all the stuff, all the exchanges that are occurring, it's that can be a an overwhelming task to remember. However, if you once the game gets underway, and to your point, Brooke, there's two things you want to note. There's only two reasons a tile is going to hit the table as a discard. The player doesn't want it, and no one else wants it or is able to call it. It's the only way to account for that. And then you can, talk about like what we believe might be a safer tile because it's already being thrown. And that's when we all kind of roll our eyes when we see lots of wins dropping at the beginning. It's very clear that it's probably no one is that interested in them. It gets a little dicier when, as the game is progressing and you're seeing, what you have, what you may have exposed, plus other exposures, minus what's sitting out there. Okay. And trying to then assess what it is that the other party may need. We all try and throw people off our game. Okay. I'm going to give you a good strategy one. I may be set up with two exposures, and you are thinking I am doing an evens hand. Okay. I have two exposures, and then, boy, does it look like I'm doing a 2, 4, 6, 8, two suits. And I start throwing. I have twos up and sixes up, and I start throwing the eights. And it may be that I'm trying to throw people off my scent because I have jokers to backfill it. And I want to distract people from thinking that's really what I'm doing. And that's why how and when to throw a joker is really important. Do not discard a joker unless you are trapped into throwing a joker because you are down to just needing pairs or singles. Always try and backfill a pung or a kong with a joker to just keep people off your scent is what I would say from a strategy point of view. It is that is one of the challenges is then assessing what you believe someone else needs based on their exposures. There's only three pieces of information you have: what you have in and on your rack, what others have on their rack, and the discards. Other than that, it's anybody's guess what's in the wall and what's on the slope portion of their rack. So therein lies the expertise of kind of divining what could it be, and that's it. You've hit on one of those. How do you teach it? You can kind of that's one of those hands-on things you would say, and maybe 3/4 into a game where you're doing guided play, if you wanted to just do a hard stop and then talk about like what do people, what are safe tiles, because we certainly don't want to throw anything that's deemed it's called a hot tile. It's what is a hot tile? It's never seen the light of day yet. No, it's like as fresh can be, and that could be a dangerous thing to throw. And usually somebody's like the sacrificial lamb. Like I'll throw the 4 dot, and then everybody after me throws a 4 dot. They're like, "Whoo! Nobody needed it." Okay, good.
Right. I love when that happens.
So that is really the finessing of the game. Yeah. Is trying to determine. It's a process of elimination, and when you have so many permutations and combinations of what the hands can be, it's then just the process of elimination, Brooke, that is going to kind of get you where you need to go. Did that kind of help you?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Nicole had a question, and Nicole, if you want to jump in, or I can ask it for you. Um, you wrote here, a newer teacher here.
Yeah.
How do you assist every student while teaching 8 or more? She's finding it hard to give them individual attention when they all want to help, when they all want you to help them during the Charleston.
Okay. Um, I can personally handle no more than eight, uh, and that really has to keep everybody kind of lockstep to one another. That when we start the Charleston, both tables have to do the first right all together. It's like everybody must be, in sync, and then I can kind of go around and assess. But once we go out of sync, I actually find that kind of difficult to keep pace to where everyone is, and it kind of does keep the Charleston uh, a little more manageable. I got to tell you, people do look at a teacher and say, "How do you remember four hands, much less eight hands, as you're progressing along?" In a Charleston, it's there should be three tiles that more or less are kind of stinkers. You know what I mean? Uh, and and that's all you're really trying to achieve in the Charleston is separating out, looking at the card, determining what, based on the tiles that are there, what possible categories do these fit? And narrowing that down. You count the number of evens, you count the number of odds, you see what you have consecutive, you see what you have jokers. And that teaching that is like, honestly, if you just go through the card, and this year there's 9 categories, not 10. And I know some of you may not be familiar with previous year's cards, but quite often there's a 10th category, which is a math category. They baked it into the whole card into other categories. So it's the year hand. So somebody's either sitting there with twos, some fives, and some soaps, or they're not. They have a lot of even numbers. You start counting, you count and see what you have toward that. Are there a lot of like numbers? Quints, unless you have two jokers, keep going. Consecutive runs. Spoiler alert, everybody. 50% of the winnings hands statistically are going to be in consecutive runs. Goes back to the 71% of the tiles are suited and numbered tiles. Always keep that in your back pocket, that consecutive runs should be a backup, if not a primary category. And that is just a function of the inventory of the tiles that are in front of you. Odd numbers, they run either low or high, 1 to 5, 5 to 9, or the gamut. Winds and Dragons they're a tough crowd, but if you have them, try them. But once you do a wind exposure, the whole world knows where you are and is going to attempt to, block your success. 369, I'm a fan favorite. I like that it's an odd, an even, and an odd, and singles and pairs. I don't encourage that be a 101 thing, but if the gods have deemed it so, you try it and you see if you can make the magic happen. So it's a matter of filtering down through the Charleston and just explaining to people all you're trying to do is create the good bones, like the good bones in a house. See where things evolve. Always give thought to 2, 4, 6, 8. If the odds come in between, you're now looking at consecutives. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. If the evens start coming in, you could be looking at consecutives, right? It's okay, to not know what direction you're going as the Charleston unfolds. But God help me, don't stop the Charleston unless you really have to, because you are giving up not potentially 9. It could be doubtfully all fresh, but 9 tiles coming in that could be semi-useful. And don't commit. Don't commit that, oh my God, I have to do this hand. Give yourself some grace. Teach to give some grace that you need to be a little bit flexible. This is a game of it's a moving target at times, and you're going to be forced to make some decisions. And if you don't have the singles and the pairs by the end of the Charleston, be mindful that that could be, depending on where, whether it's flowers or whatever the singles or pairs are, you can't call for them. So have a backup plan in case you get blocked out. That would be, good old Linda is thinking she's going to do a consecutive run and I need a pair of ones and I have one of them. And my friend Jamie, before I know it, puts up a pung of the other three ones. And now I better be thinking real fast on my feet about what other direction am I going. Singles and pairs, that's what I would say. Singles and pairs have been the undoing of Linda Rosenson throughout my throughout my career. Yeah.
Very cute. That's very funny.
Thank you. Yeah, I find what I'm running into is everybody wants you to look at their hand. You're trying to teach everyone, and everybody wants you to stop and look at their hand and help them. So as much as I want to give them that individual attention, obviously you can't be helping every single person through the Charleston. So I don't know what most people say. I'm trying to think of a polite way to say just run with it,
You can take the time to, in 101 to kind of help them pick those three. And then they should be able to give you an idea of what those three are. What three do you think? I have them put them off to the right side. And I like people to, when they set up their hand, please set them up in, ascending order by suit with the matching dragon, with your flowers and your winds off to the side. Assess what you have. And a random tile here and there, if I have a 2 dot and a 7 dot in a suit, something's got to go. Nothing is really going to do anything amazing there. It's helping people understand how to parse out the useless from the potentially useful. And there are certain things that are just going to be categorically, well, explain to me how you think you could use that tile. And please don't tell me it's pretty, because I'm going to tell you it sure is pretty, but is it useful? And show me what hands you think that, could be useful in your mission, right? Be pragmatic. It's a moment to be pragmatic, and that's a learning moment. Let's look at the card. Let's consider what categories might be under consideration, but doing that times 8 is a lot. And it may not move as quickly as people would like, but everybody does want to feel either they're getting the same level of attention that you're able to give Nicole, or, no one should get like that much more or that much less attention throughout the Charleston.
Right.
And God help us all. The more you do it, the better you get. The more you do it, the better you get. And that is the mantra. The first 5 times you do it, the Charleston, everybody's like just a little overwhelmed, and then it becomes like, oh, I think I kind of get that I don't need this or I do need that, and then. But am I going to agree with you that it's a lot? Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot. But keeping them all together and calling it out. First right. Everybody work on their first right until you've kind of completed that whole cycle at both tables, across. And now we're going to work on across. And it does give people a moment to breathe, to figure out incoming. I always ask all the incoming tiles, keep them to the right until I come around to you and see what came in, and let's see how useful it is.
And they never do.
But I asked.
It always makes it up. You're like, wait,
but yet we ask. But they're like, but I had to put it there because it looked like it would go. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I find that I think, Nicole, what your question is that you position yourself to be like in the front as the teaching, and then it gets to that moment. You may consider getting an assistant to have someone help you go around. That's what Jamie and I ended up having to do, because no matter how good you are, time wise, you just can't reach 12 people through that moment. And
Yeah.
that is probably in my opinion, like one of the most important moments for them, is to help them through that moment, because that's where they feel the most lost. Um,
Yeah.
and when I do it, I talk out loud. I tell everybody, I'm not telling you what your tiles are, but I will talk about, you have this dragon and this. I will do the mental math, as I used to say, because I was a math teacher. And whenever I would help a student, I would always say whatever I was doing out loud. And the person next to them actually listens sometimes. So it does help, even though then some people are like, don't tell them what I have. I'm like, I'm not really telling them what they have. And this is a learning experience. But I find that helps me a lot when I do that. And then by the time I get to the fourth person at the table, they're like, these are the three, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, good. And also knowing the cards super, super, super well, so that you can, and do a tournament, do a 12-minute game.
Yeah.
Elva, to your point, if someone can be identified who has completed 103, you know, and they're like itching to think about, maybe I want to be teaching, I don't know what my chops are like, that would be a really good person to bring in to assist, uh, to kind of size them up. It will help them brush up on their skills, give them some, you be able to kind of mentor them directly, give them some hands-on, give them a sense of, you know, a sort of a leadership, or, you know, like, they are now kind of, they've risen above, you know, being just a learning the game. They are now kind of, it will probably, some people say that's not for me, but all you need are one or two who say, yes, that is something I would just get a real kick out of doing that. I think it will reinforce my knowledge. It will make me a better player. And then, you know what, maybe I am somebody who is interested in teaching, and that's a good platform to let me see if that's something that is, you know, I would like to do. Is it a good fit? Really good. I like that, Elva.
Yay. Okay. Anyone else have a question? Nobody else? Okay. Well, we're actually coming up just a little after 8. Um, and Linda, thank you
Yes.
for being such a great resource. I love your Wheel of Fortune, by the way. That's like one of my, I've been watching that. It's been several years now. How many years have you been doing the Wheel of Fortune?
Oh, maybe like 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember when
Yeah.
you first started to come out and be like, oh, look how cute. Oh, look. This was pre becoming a teacher. Um, so yeah,
It
it's
was my pleasure. And congratulations to everybody, who is continuing to, you know, learn how to, uh, you know, teach other people this amazing game, uh, teach other teachers how to play this game. You are spreading something that the returns are phenomenal. I am out there as a resource. Feel free to friend me on Facebook. Uh, I congratulate Jamie and Elva. These are, like, you know, you're like the hardest working women, uh, you know, north of the Mason-Dixon line, I think. Uh, and very creative, lots of fresh ideas. Uh, what you're doing is really creating some great magic, and, you know, a pat on your backs, you know, a much deserved, congratulations. And everybody just stay well. Uh, you know, I appreciate you taking part of your Sunday evening to join in.
yay. All right. Thank you, Linda.
All
We are
righty.
very blessed and we will see you online.
Yay.
Good night.
Yay.
Take
Thank
care.
you.